Fortnite, bet you didn't see this one coming. Like it or hate it, thanks to the game's massive popularity and the fact that it showed how successful a free game can do, we've seen more free-to-play games in the last few years than ever. Heck, even critically acclaimed games that cost prior went free. At this point, you don't even need to buy a game. As long as you have a rig, you have access to an ever-growing library and variety of different genres, with most being pretty good. Excluding you. Hired Ops first released on the 21st of October 2016 on Steam for around $10. However, the game went free to play a few days ago. It's developed by Absolute Soft, which you may know from Contract Wars, a pretty popular browser-based FPS released during 2012. I personally have very fond memories of Contract Wars, it being my first true multiplayer first-person shooter and basically the only game I played till late 2015 when I got into Counter-Strike. The game had its flaws, you couldn't sprint, shotguns and snipers were overpowered, but as far as browser-based games went, it was alright. Hired Ops is a successor to Contract Wars, taking the franchise to a modern age by adding sprinting, leaning, and better graphics. Although by 2016 standards they were still far behind. Crosshairs are also removed, taking the game one step closer to the hardcore FPS it wants to be, and that is it. Everything else is somewhat worse than it was in TV, and that game hasn't aged too well on its own. Moving, even when they're sprinting, feels way too slow and clunky. Visibility, lighting, maps, the inconsistency of weapon damage, viable airstrikes, drones, sonars, etc. Snipers being given more of a power than they used to the point where they are the only viable weapon. Optimization, the lack of a fucking server browser. Why can't this play still 3-shot and this AR is shooting fucking BBs? Replenish 1000 health self. This sound.
Second point is out!
Really the only compliments I could give this game is that hip firing feels awesome. And they added Nico from GTA 4 to the game.
Nico, it's Roman! Let's go ball!
In some ways it still feels like Contract Wars, and I did get a sense of nostalgia out of it. They kept the same kill notices, the design of the game feels familiar, contracts are still there, being more difficult and bugged, and the progression system is roughly the same. Although it wasn't the best then and still isn't now. It takes an absurd amount of time just to unlock a single weapon for one of the 4 operators, and then you'll still have to buy it. What really bums me out is the in-match progression. Doing basically anything during a match gives you money, and for that cash you can buy upgrades, health packs, gadgets, etc. They removed the skill tree from CV, which you use to upgrade your character a little with skill points, by reducing recoil as an example, slowly, over time, and you earn those points by leveling up. There are also no kill streaks, due to things such as the sonar and mortar strikes now being implemented into the in-match progression system, meaning you could buy them whenever. For some forsaken reason, they also added the ability to see enemies' location through walls, not just the minimap. While it may work in concept, in reality it changes an unbalanced game to an unplayable one. It also doesn't help that the maps available are a bad gamble. You either get an abomination to the mankind, or something that's passable. Really the only map I'd consider quote-unquote good is Bay 5, which is only accessible in Deathmatch and a remaster of an already existing map in CV. Speaking of Deathmatch, one of the best game modes used to be VIP. A random player would spawn in as one, and it was your team's duty to protect them, while the other team tried their best to eliminate the VIP. It was fun and chaotic, but instead now we have a bland, kill this amount of players to win TDM game mode. Hired Ops could have been a great successor to Contract Wars. Instead, they opted to go for a bland version of the original and a cash grab, which didn't even turn out successful. There are many great free-to-play games out there that could use your time much more, with some of them being seriously underrated and fun. I did not enjoy my time with Hired Ops, and I do not recommend it. If anything, HO is a spin in the face of the legacy left behind by Contract Wars.